when you think of human evolution, do you ever stop to think, what are we going to be like a million years from now if we do survive? Have you ever done this sort of thought experiment where you say, okay, if things keep going the same way, we used to be very strong and very hairy, and we're getting progressively softer as we don't need to use our bodies as much. Our brains are getting larger, our heads are getting bigger. Do you do that sort of thought experiment to see what we're going to become? And
not in a systematic scientific way, because the process is so fraught with incredible detail that I think it's hard for anybody, even experts in evolutionary biology, to really tell us anything that will hold water, that's really predictive. But on a general level, because people often wonder, why is it that we haven't been visited by aliens, right? This is a thing that comes up whenever you're talking about other life inside the universe.
I'll get to that in a minute with you.
But the answer to that could be quite straightforward. Nobody out there cares about us because we're so ill-developed. We're so young on the cosmic scene that there's nothing interesting for them to find here on planet Earth. So to me, there's a natural explanation for why there can be other life out there, and yet they don't hang out around planet Earth, just the way we don't hang around an anthill to try to have a conversation with, what's going on inside that particular structure.
I buy that argument the least.
You do? Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Because we're interested in butterflies. Butterflies are so boring. We're interested in moles. We're interested in squirrels.
We're interested in them for very specific reasons, right? So typically we're interested either because we want to see the evolutionary development that yields this particular life form, or because there's a general curiosity about how this object is put together. If these other beings are so far beyond us that those kinds of taxonomy questions are no longer of any interest, then hanging around here may not hold anything for them to make the journey and stick around long enough for us to notice.
I don't buy that, again, for two reasons. Okay. One, because why would we assume that they're so far beyond us that they wouldn't be interested in these talking monkeys with thermonuclear weapons who dominate an entire planet?
Yeah.
That would be fascinating. If we found some planet somewhere where people are, the politicians all lie to themselves, everyone gets video through the sky, they fly in metal tubes that hurl over the oceans.
Right.
They pollute the oceans and eat all the fish. Like, these people are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
We've got to go there and check this out.
But imagine that this civilization, the notion of lording over a planet is like us talking about, the ant lording over a grain of sand. So they may be galactic as opposed to planetary in their hegemony. Mm-hmm. And the notion of some little tiny rock orbiting some nondescript star in the suburbs of this completely ordinary galaxy off there on the side may not have the kind of pull that you imagine that it does.
Oh, I disagree. We think it's interesting when we see a chimp use a rock to open up a nut. We think it's interesting that, there's an amazing photograph of an orangutan that's spearfishing. Have you ever seen it?
I have seen that, actually.
It's really cool.
Right. No, it is.
He learned it from people, apparently, but it's still interesting nonetheless.
Right, but I don't think 100 years from now we're going to be as interested in these kind of qualities, or 1,000 years from now, or 10,000 years from now.
Well, why would we assume that these things that come here from another planet are more than 10,000 years advanced?
That's a very good question. And I think the answer to that is we look at the history of the cosmos until today, and let's just call it our universe to be concrete, 13.8 billion years. And we look at life on planet Earth, and it's, a handful of billions of years old. So in a handful of billions of years, you can go from some complex molecules to human beings.
I like how you say it like it's not that long.
It's not that long because, imagine that life began a few billion years earlier in some other system, stars and galaxies, they were starting up, a billion years after the Big Bang. So it could be that life in other worlds has a head start on us by a few billion years. And we know what can happen in a few billion years. It can take us from single cell to us.
Sure.
And you can imagine from a few billion years from now into the future, it could be radically different. So to say it's 10,000 years ahead of us, that to me would be the unexplained coincidence. How unlikely that they started and we started within 10,000 years in the span of billions of years. That seems unlikely to me.
Does it seem unlikely when you're talking about the infinite size of the universe, and there's perhaps an infinite number of Brian Greenes out there talking to an infinite numbers of me.
Good point. So you're absolutely right. We're almost guaranteed, if the spatial expanse of the universe is infinitely large, that there are going to be places where it's within 10,000 years of us. But those are going to be a very small number compared to the places where it's not 10,000 years.
Is that true, or would it be an infinite number of them?
Well, it'd
not
be
a
infinite,
small number at all.
But they're different kinds of infinities.
So you mean in the space of the exact scope of the universe itself, a small number, relatively speaking, to where we are physically?
So I would say it slightly differently. I'd say look at a finite-sized ball in this large spatial expanse. So everything's finite now.
So let's get a 5 billion light year ball.
Right. Okay. And within that ball, the number that are differing from us by 10,000 years will be very, very small compared to the number differing from us by, say, a billion years or a couple of billion years.
So then,
simply by the law of numbers, if we imagine that they're random processes that are generated. Now, there could be some physical principle that prevents life from emerging before, say, 4 billion years ago. And if that's the case, and we're not aware of that principle, then you'd be absolutely right, that we'd all be roughly at the same starting point, and there's no reason to suspect that they would be so far ahead of us. But I don't know of any such principle.
But you almost have a reductionist view of this, right? Like so if you had a guess, if you had $100 to bet, has alien life ever observed us? You would say no. Well,
by observed, you mean could they just turn a big telescope in our direction and gather some radio waves, but yes, I would take that bet, because frankly, we've only been generating radio waves for the last, 70 years. So it's only a 70 light year ball around us. And within that small radius, very unlikely that there's been some alien world that's examining us.
So it would have to be something that would be able to recognize our signal and visit us.
Right.
But don't we look at observable planets and solar systems and discover Goldilocks planets?
We do.
And we examine those planets from vast distances away.
Yes.
And wouldn't you assume that a life form that is perhaps thousands of years more advanced than us, with the exponential increase in technology, I mean, if they ever got to the point where we are, that they would see these Goldilocks planets as well and recognize that Earth is one of them?
Yes. However, if they are so far away, they're going to be examining Earth as it was hundreds of thousands or millions or billions of years ago.
Right.
So if you truly want them to be examining us in the sense of human presence on planet Earth, then it's a much more difficult proposition to imagine that they've actually been doing that.
Is it possible there's another way to examine things where you're not hampered by the speed of light?
Not that I know of. I mean, any signal in the world that we're aware of is restricted by a special theory by the speed of travel, which is now look. There's quantum entanglement, which is a strange property of the quantum world in which distant objects can behave as if they are one.
Yes.
And in some sense respond instantaneously to an influence in one location at a distant location, no matter how far apart they are. But that isn't really observing. That's more realizing correlations between physical properties at widely separated locations. But I'm not aware of a means of leveraging that to actually observe what's happening in some distant location, even if you do have quantum entangled particles.
Do you know of there's a very famous painting that shows what appears to be men in crafts flying through the sky in the background of an ancient painting? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I actually have a page. One of the first pages I ever put on my website is like a bunch of these, because throughout history there are these indications of ships, of craft.
But you know the one I'm talking about?
Yes.
It's like, and it's that's the shape of it. It's also like a plate turned on its side, and then there's a person inside of it.
Yeah, man. It's
flying through in that same. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, look how incredible. it's flying.
But, the thing is that everybody can say art. The one above that's pretty cool, because that was a hidden thing. I've studied that one where it says Discovery 15th century. Above her left shoulder, there is an object, and if you really zoom in, look at the dude staring up at it. As a painter, my wife is a painter, everything is intentional.
Which guy? Where's the guy? The guy on the
right over there. It's pretty cool.
Looking up.
So I think that's 15th century, it said. So the problem with this, Joe, is
go to the original one, the one that we just looked at, Jamie, the one right before that. Yeah. See, get a big picture of that.
Yeah.
That is so strange. Like, here you got Christ being crucified, and then above him, UFOs. Like, And is that supposed to be aliens, or is that supposed to be angels? Like, what is that supposed to be in these things that they have? It's real similar to what we're talking about here.
That's the argument of Miracle of Fatima, let's say. I mean, again, this is so speculative. We have a witness here of, Pilate, but when you see something like the Miracle of Fatima, if you look at that...
What is the Miracle of Fatima?
God, that's that one that was, considered a real miracle by the church, and the 3 kids were getting messages, I'll get this all wrong, but for like months that they're going to be visited and to bring people, and bigger groups gathered to where there was over 100,000 people.
What year is this?
1917.
So, dozens of thousands, if not hundreds, but dozens for sure, see an event. A mass sighting of something that happened. We're talking people that were religious, people that weren't religious, doctors at the time.
That's not a real image, is it, Jamie?
That one was doctored a little bit, so you could see they're all looking at something.
But that's not real.
Yeah,
but that's the crowd, right? The crowd is real. Is that right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. People come out, something happened that was so intense. Some people thought it was religious, that it was a visitation, but other people saw it as technological, like something descended. Look into it. I'm just saying, art, pictures, like paintings we're talking about, man, you can interpret them all day. I can't hold on to that. I can hold on to an eyewitness with other eyewitnesses, with radar systems, and with video. We're in a different era now. We don't have to paint it, man. We get to see it. It's fascinating, man.
It is fascinating, but it's way more fascinating when someone like you talks about it versus some fucking random kook. That's what makes me incredibly interested, is your credibility and the fact that this is not, you don't have a history of seeing wacky shit that other people don't see.
No, just this once.
But it's on video, and that there's other ones as well. It's really strange. And I've seen people try to explain it away, and what I don't like about when they explain it away or attempt to explain it away is that they're trying really hard. They're not going, who knows what this fucking thing is? They're not looking at it like cleanly. They're looking at it like a quote-unquote skeptic. I don't like the idea of being a skeptic. Not that I don't think you should be skeptical of certain things. I certainly think you should be. But there's a lot of people that brand themselves as skeptics. And I think it's a lazy way to look at things. I really do. Because I think you're just looking for the holes in things without looking at it objectively. If you wanted to be a scientist, if you wanted to be someone who is a fan of science, then you have to look at it as a thing. Like, look at this information and let's study this without any bias, any preconceived notions. I don't think they're doing that. They're looking at it and they're trying to find a way where they can justify that it's fake. And they're just doing all sorts of mental gymnastics to try to make it fake. That video that you show where that thing slips off to the left and takes off at incredible rates of speed, that alone should freak people the fuck out.
Yeah, well, I think because people confuse all the time, like we took the video, no, it was another crew that took the video. We watched it for 5 minutes with our eyeballs, and there was 4 of us, and we all have the same story. We all saw the same stuff. We all came back and looked at each other and scratched our head and said, WTF, serious? What was that?
My question about that mummy is not that it's an alien, but if it does register as human in the DNA, is it potentially a different kind of human than us?
Well, certainly we brought in an expert in South American indigenous people genetics, and the analysis showed that the standard genetic mutations that are found in different racial groups around the world matched exactly the Atacama region of Chile. So her parents, her relatives were clearly Chilean. So yeah, that's really all you can say. If someone wants to say that she's an alien, well, that's fine. I'm convinced of what she is and that she deserves a proper burial.
And so it's just a genetic anomaly.
Just a genetic anomaly.
I do know that you've paid attention to the tridactyl mummies.
Yeah.
What is your take on that?
So, I think people have conflated a lot of the different mummies that are out there, first of all. There's good point. 60 of them or something. Mm-hmm. And probably a fair number of them I wouldn't necessarily call them hoaxes. I would say that they are constructed. But they're old constructs, so maybe there's some sort of homage paid to the ancestors or something like that, whatever they are. So there are some ones that you clearly look at, you go, oh, come on.
Right.
That never lived. That's
Then there's the fetal position
Then there's the
ones.
fetal position ones, the big ones.
Yeah.
And I was at the beginning, I'm always open to being wrong. I was at the beginning thinking, oh, well, because of the small ones, those are probably not real. But then the MRIs started coming out.
Yeah.
The full body MRIs and the ligature and the bone construction and the finger, and then perhaps most, I think, extraordinarily, the fingerprints on them being clearly not human. So it's interesting. But here's the problem, is that because there's so much circus around them, unfortunately created by people who want a circus because it sells their TV shows, no scientist of any merit would go near it. So I was approached many times to study them. And I said, I'll do it on one condition. Here's the money I need, not personally, but here's the money I need to do the kinds of analysis to accomplish this right. Second, there will be no TV cameras. And you won't hear from me again until I'm ready to talk, because I'll have double-checked and triple-checked and quadruple-checked the results, and then I'll have gone out, as I did with the Atacama mummy, bringing in further contiguous circles of experts to double-check me.
And not make it a circus.
And not make it a circus. Because I won't name the TV show that wanted to do it, but they wanted to follow me around with a camera. And I'm like, no, this isn't how science is done.
Right.
I can't do it with those strictures. So I would say that if anybody's going to do it again, lock the things away with South American scientists. You don't need a North American scientist to come in and do it. There's plenty of smart people in South America who can do this properly. And respect the rights of the indigenous peoples who own the sacred grounds within which these things were found. I think that's important. And then do the analysis right. They made, I think, the mistake of saying, well, we've done the DNA and there's a lot of DNA that doesn't match. Anything, and the stuff is several hundred years old, anything that old, you won't get a lot of good DNA out of it. But they did the same thing with the Denisovan and the Neanderthal. You have to correct the chemical errors that occur over time. There are ways to what's called bioinformatically correct. You need to do what's called over-reading of the genome, where you do so many reads of it that you stack them all up line by line. Like if you had 1,000 versions of an ancient Bible, you would stack up the lines one by one, and finally you find one line that has this letter, that's correct, and then this one correct, and then you basically do a summation of an averaging of the correctness. And so they say, oh, well, there's 90% of the genome is non-human. It's probably garbage. It's probably these mistakes. It's probably bacterial contamination that you're reading. There's ways to deal with that, but that requires money and not one-off DNA sequences put on the interwebs for some amateur genomicist to make a claim about.
Right.
So there's ways to do it. I mean, you would want, at the end of the day, to get the results to the level where you could go to the guys who did the Denisovan and the Neanderthal DNA, the Max Planck and others who won the Nobel Prize for it, and say, hey, what do you think? But you don't dare take it to people like that until you've done your homework.
I see. Yeah.
Right. And you do it behind the scenes. You don't put them under a flashlight.
Right.
And people, I think, have gotten used to this click mentality of impatience where I want the result today. Why can't you just make it all transparent? Dump all the data on the web tomorrow. You're not transparent. You're hiding something. No, I'm not. I am just trying to make sure that you don't make the mistake and accuse me of making the mistake that you'll find in the data, because the raw data is never clean.
In the Daily Mail headline.
In the Daily Mail
it's
headline.
Never accurate.
So, long story short, I think there's still something worth looking at there.
Well, The scans are fascinating, right?
Yeah, the scans are the most interesting to me.
Have you seen the Jesse Michaels, the newest video?
Yeah, Jesse's a good friend.
He's great. I love that guy. And the episode that he did is fantastic. And when you see the scans and they go over the bone structure of the thing and you look at it, you're like, God, that looks real.
Yeah.
If that's a hoax from 1,700 years ago or
Exactly.
yeah, whoever, if the carbon isotope dating that they did on it is accurate.
I've looked at that data. It looks good.
Okay. So then it is that old. Fuck you then.
Yeah.
Because there's no way someone back then could fake that.
And somebody asked me the other day, they said, well, could you have a single mutation or a set of, I said, no. I mean, because you don't get one mutation that does all that.
Right.
You know, evolution works step by step that this does this, but it has a mistake, but it's corrected by this mutation over here in evolution, which is corrected by this. And so the genome fluctuates over time, compensating for the errors that would otherwise have killed you.
Also, one of them is pregnant.
That's fast. Yeah, I know.
Okay, so it's a 3-foot pregnant thing that doesn't look remotely human being.
Yeah. So the jury is still out.
Right.
But if they're going to do it right, they need to sequester the stuff away, bring in the right people with sufficient resources, and get rid of the cameras.
Have you talked to them? Have you encouraged this? Is it
Openly.
possible to nudge this in the right direction? And where's it at right now?
I wrote out on Twitter a full thing of what they needed to do. I mean, the easiest first milestone to do, to be honest, that could be done within a couple of months, is if it is somewhere in the hominid or, let's say, vertebrate line, there are metabolism genes that we all share. In fact, there are metabolism genes that we share with bacteria that are very similar. So do you know the technique called polymerase chain reaction, PCR?
Yes.
So, why try to do the whole genome? Why not just target a bunch of genes that we know evolve slowly, but do evolve, and PCR those out? Because that's easier to do than is trying to assemble a whole genome. And then by having just those, let's call it preliminary sets of evidence, you could then say, this actually reproducibly, if I take a sample from the finger, I take a sample from the bone marrow, I take a sample from here or there on the body, and I take a sample from the 3 different main things, and I see the same mutations, and they're different or somehow aligned with hominid evolution, right? We compare it to all the known hominids. I mean, that would be the kind of data that you could actually publish in a journal like Nature if you did it right. Because that's the only way that you're going to get anybody to pay attention.
There's also the bizarre anecdotal nature of some of the artwork. Like the fact that these people did a lot of these tapestries and a lot of ancient artwork that's 1,000 years old that depicts these 3-fingered things. So it's like, what are they describing? Are they describing these actual creatures? That there were only a few of them, and it was
Right.
a weird genetic mutation, or is this a common visitor that they're describing?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I mean,
But
why
it's-
would you put them in a cave in Peru? I don't know.
And
I
if
mean,
you didn't put them in a cave in Peru, what would be left? That's the problem. The problem is it's really hard to make a fossil. It's really hard to find bones. Think about all the people that died,
right.
and
Yeah.
we don't find that many bones,
Right.
relatively speaking, in comparison to the fucking billions of
Right.
people that died.
Right.
It's not like we're tripping over human bones every day.
Right, except in mass graves.
Yeah. Right. That's really And even in mass graves, given enough time, they will deteriorate. Like
Yeah.
mass graves from 1,000, 1,700 years ago, whatever these things are.
So, I find them interesting, and I hope that behind the scenes there are people who are taking a more methodical approach to this, who I think should remain stealthed until they have the data to the point where it is
They can
publishable.
publish. Yeah.
Publishing a white paper or putting something out on the internet is not the same as putting out data that has all of the instruments that you used, the methods that you used, etc. The reason You want papers, frankly, when you publish them, to be almost boring and so thick with detail that no pseudo-skeptic would dare approach it because they're just not smart enough. But if you put out these snippets that don't have sufficient background, they can be picked apart by anybody. Right? But that's why peer review is so important. And people mistake peer review as trying to get the reviewers to agree with your conclusions. No, the main purpose of peer review is actually to make sure that the methods that you used are sufficiently detailed and are correct enough to the extent you came to any conclusions, they match the methods that you used.
And when you think about these potential whatever they are, whatever these creatures are, if we did find out that they are some sort of a hominid, how much credence do you give to the theory that there's like the possibility that these UFOs, UAPs, whatever it is a break-off civilization from a very, very long time ago that's very different from us, just same way we're very different from chimpanzees,
right,
which we coexist with?
Right. I have no problem conjecturing that. Did you ever see the Netflix show Chimp Empire?
Yes.
Amazing, right?
Amazing.
20 million years of separation, and it looked like fucking faculty meeting. With people like looking at each other and planning and plotting, board meeting, and so we shared all of those interactions from 20 million years ago. So how much further back would you have to go to have something like what that is? I mean, it's clearly not recent.
And also, if you think about what we are in comparison to chimps, we're so fragile, we're frail, we're easily injured, well, if you think of something that's far more technologically advanced than us, it would be even more frail. It would be even more petite. It would have almost no muscle at all. It would look, weirdly enough, like the Greys from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like, that's what it would look like. If it was a hominid that's whatever we are, and it went way past that.
Right. Yeah, no, technology gives evolution the excuse to no longer make or allow for you to be
robust.
Thank you. That was the word I was looking for.
And also, why do you need opposable thumbs?
Yeah.
Right? These things don't even have opposable thumbs.
That was what's weird about it.
Right.
It's like, how do you interact with your environment? They look more like sloths than they do.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, at least their hands do.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I find it...
Well, if everything's done with AI and automation and your interface is purely neurological, like so you have some sort of a human or a creature neuro interface with technology, and you just use fingers to like lay them on electronics so that you can sync up with it.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Why not?
Why are you picking things up, bro? You don't have to pick things up anymore. Those go away just like,
If you look at this is another point that Tim, I'm just giving Tim a shout out to give him credit for the stuff that I've been that I've been noodling on for the past, yesterday and today on private a lot of time, just sitting on a plane, looking out the window going, man, where are all the aliens? And so the other thing he talks about is like if the history of human civilization was an 800-page book. So say 160,000 years that we've been like Homo sapiens sapiens with like the kinds of civilizations that, even pre-civilizations, right? Nomadic peoples and so on. Then each page of that book is, 250 years, I think I'm doing that maths right, or 200 years, 200 times 800, 160,000. If you can open that book to almost any page and the same shit's going on.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like all the way up until basically people are wandering around with pretty primitive tools. A few of them sort of figure out how to use fire. A few of them figure out like how to use metals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A few of them figure out how to ride horses and domesticate animals. But it's basically the same shit for like 790 pages of the 800-page book of the civilization of our species. And then just towards the end, it's like the page before the very end, like the United States gets settled, Australia gets settled, the Industrial Revolution happens. And then like on the final page, if each page is 250 years of an 800-page book, it's the last half of the page. Nuclear weapons, going into space, landing on the moon, the evolution of the internet, vehicles, cars, climate change, like all of this. And it's like the final few, like Facebook and all this shit, Axie Infinity and little coins and your VR and your Orgasmatron and everything is like the final 2 lines of an 800-page book. So, sometimes sometimes people will say to me, people always think that they're living through amazing times, Josh. You think you're living through an incredible time, but I'm sure people were saying that in like the 1820s. I'm sure everyone was like, oh my God, things are changing so fast. And I'm like, no, I'm going to call bullshit on that.
Yeah.
If an alien who knew nothing about anything took that 800-page book, they'd be like, page 233 is roughly the same as page 722.
Yeah.
But they'd get to the end and they'd be like, holy shit, what's going to happen next? Like, I want to read the sequel to this book. I want to read, what's 801?
Well, that's when they would keep an eye on us. When they dropped Fat Man and Little Boy on Japan, that's when UFO sightings started happening all over the globe.
Oh.
There's a giant uptick in UFO sightings. Was it Kenneth Arnold was one of the first, I believe? He's the guy who spotted, I think it's Kenneth Arnold, was the guy that spotted the flying saucers. He was the first one to discuss them as saucer-shaped discs. But they started seeing them all over the place. Like there was encounters in Washington, D.C., and there was encounters over nuclear bases and where they said that they had shut codes down. And I don't know if there was alien life, and if there is alien life out there that's aware of us. I don't know if they would intervene because we don't really do much when we find chimps. The scientific community. Yeah. Well, the intelligent scientific community doesn't try to interfere with their life and give them guns and this is how you start a fire.
Right. But chimps have noticed that we exist.
Yes.
So, like, even if they don't come, like, I'm not talking about, like, why haven't aliens come and visited us, like, in Independence Day? I just mean, like, when we train our telescopes on the sky, why isn't there any evidence of, like, little flickering radio waves coming from somewhere? But a possible explanation is the one that you say, which is we're looking for the wrong things. Like, we've only been emitting radio waves for a century, and we might be just about to end that and go into some virtual reality metaverse or something, and maybe we'll meet them all there. Maybe we'll unlock some door of the Zuckerberg multiverse and be like, oh, here are a whole bunch of pre-existing civilizations of aliens who already exist on this platform.
Well, also, if you think about the various planets that we know exist just in our solar system and the conditions that exist on these planets, there's not a lot of them that can support life. Like they believe that Mars at one point in time had liquid water and they had an atmosphere and they were probably hit with some sort of an asteroid that wiped out everything. But other than that, you've got Europa that has frozen water on the outside. I mean, that's close by,
though. But when you're talking about the scale of the universe, it's almost like talking about rolling the dice on the numbers of COVID in a population. Like, you don't need very high numbers before once you go to that size.
My point was the solar system that we exist in is very unusual. And, we obviously have a planet that exists in this Goldilocks range, but we also have an extremely large asteroid belt. And it's indicative of the initial impact between Earth 1 and Earth 2. Earth 1 was a planet that got hit by another planet.
Right.
And that's what created the moon, and they believe that also created the asteroid belt. And if there's a solar system out there that didn't have that sort of event, so didn't have to worry about these intermittent cataclysms where, that's one of the things that Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock have done some great research on, is the indication that at least one time that we know of while civilization existed, it was probably almost wiped out.
Right.
And it's somewhere in the Younger Dryas impact theory, somewhere around 11,000.
Is this when we were all like 5,000 people or something, or like 10? There were only
that was 70,000 years ago, and that was, I believe, was Indonesia. That was a volcano eruption. That there was a super volcano that erupted that wiped out almost everybody. And we got down to like 70,000 people or 7,000 people. They don't know exactly, but it was right about there. And then we pulled back up. We did a lot of fucking, and here we are today.
Thank God we didn't have an Orgasmatron. Otherwise, people would have been in their basements with sore thumbs.
The point is, if there's a planet out there that doesn't have that issue, And let's imagine, because I don't know what the reality is when it comes to like ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia, or I mean these incredible structures that these people built. Where unfortunately, because of the burning of the Library of Alexandria, we don't have the real records of how they did it or how they accomplished it or who they were, or even really how long ago they really made it. We know that some of them, they've done carbon dating on some of the stuff, and they know it's at least 2,500 BC. But there's some indications that some of it might be far, far older than that. So let's imagine that there was some sort of a civilization 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago that was very advanced and was allowed to advance without any interruption, without nuclear war, without solar flares, without asteroid impacts or supervolcanoes. Maybe they lived in a much more stable climate, and they got to a place where they're 1,000,000 years more advanced than us. 1,000,000 years. Imagine what the fuck we're going to be in 1,000,000 years.
I mean, I can't even imagine what we're going to be in 100 years.
So
and then
if
take
that's the
1,000
case-
years, 10,000, 100,000.
Yeah, if that's the case, like if they were out there and they were watching us, they'd probably just make sure we don't blow ourselves up.
Yeah,
Like,
or
just-
not.
I think they would
You
probably
reckon they're
rather,
benevolent?
Well, if you got to think that, well, I don't know if it's benevolent or malevolent. Like if you think about what a scientist is, it's someone who wants to observe but sometimes protect. You know, like we protect endangered species. Activists get together and they say, hey, you know, there's only a few of these birds left. We have to do whatever we can to preserve them. If they have that same mentality about the human race, I think they would have a pretty standoffish attitude and just sort of wait for us to figure it out. And especially if they look at the acceleration of our innovation and this exponential acceleration of technology. And
I can't remember if it was like Michio Kaku or Neil deGrasse Tyson or one of those like great science guys who was saying like maybe any civilization that would be advanced enough to be able to reach out to us or to be noticed by us would also have to be the kind of civilization that would not be a predatory colonizing species, because in that case it would have devoured itself with internal squabbles. You know, before
Klingons.
then. You basically have to reach a certain level of spiritual and psychological wisdom and self-awareness and compassion in order to sustain yourself over the course of, you know, so far we've had a couple of hundred years since the Industrial Revolution, and it's only been less than a century that we've had nukes. We've had the ability to actually do some serious damage on a global scale. We're just kids. We are toddlers with an AR-15 right now. I mean, we don't know what we're doing, and we're going to have to grow up into adults, and we're going to, you know, have a grown-up civilization.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
If aliens are real, I'm not 100% convinced, but I'm probably like 90% convinced. But if they are real, I leave in the room for bullshit. It's like, Jamie, get a picture of your shirt. Show everybody the shirt you're wearing while we're talking about that. It's a UFO. It says, can they see it? Believe that. That's a dope shirt. Exactly.
That's a saucer, if I've ever seen one.
I think if they're here, they're not going to let us. That's what I think.
Well, that's what
I think they're going to swoop in and go, hey.
Well, that's
fuck.
I'm 25, right? I can't speak on anything, but just looking from past experience, and you know, there's like drawings, like even in the Mona Lisa, there's a weird thing or whatever in the background and shit.
Saucer.
But there's a spike. It's a spike in like, because it's getting pretty weird here.
The spike, they think, it's hard to tell because sometimes when people talk about UFOs, a bunch of other people hallucinate or lie. Like there's a lot of that.
Right.
So every time there's a real legit UFO, you get a bunch of nut cases who just want to tell crazy shit about being taken aboard spaceships.
I mean,
you've seen a UFO?
Yeah.
What'd you see? What'd it look like?
I was probably 16. I was in upstate New York, and it would just stay there. So let me precursor this. My aunt and uncle were very strict, and we had to go to bed at a very strict deadline, probably 10 p.m. And I was looking out the window with my cousin, and it's just a light that just stays there and then just fucking goes off. I mean, you can't explain it.
Well, if you're 17 at the time?
16.
16? How
probably.
How strong is this memory when you're like looking at it, when you're trying to remember it? Medium?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's something there.
For sure something took off and did something that didn't make sense to you?
For sure. And then in Utah, I mean, their shit happens all the time. I mean, even here in LA, I can't tell you how many times, because I used to live in Tarzana. So there was like a balcony here, and it looked kind of like, it sounds corny, but like a classic like force field. Whenever you think of a force field, and it just kind of goes like this, and it's kind of like a dome in a circular shape. And it just goes like this and goes back in.
Whoa.
In Tarzana. Looking down at the fucking city. And I'm like, how did no one else see this?
They might have.
But I was there with like fucking 4 other people, and they saw it too.
The thing about unique events is if a unique event happens and it never happens again, it's hard to remember. It's hard to be sure what you saw. It's hard. But if aliens are visiting us, like how often are they doing it? Like unique events would probably be what it would be.
Right.
It'd be like occasionally,
Right.
once every 6 months, someone sees one somewhere. But they're here all the time. They probably just know how to evade detection. I mean, it just, if something can travel here from another planet, it's going to be able to know when they're being watched and when they're not being watched. That's not going to be hard.
That's why you got to wonder if it's like intentional.
I think there's enough talk about it now that we're probably going to find out what it is in our lifetime. I never would think that before. I think the government withheld information for whatever reason. Maybe they think people are scared. Maybe they think it's a threat to the national security, to have a bunch of people worried that aliens are flying around us all the time. There's nothing we can do about it. Maybe they like had a conversation and they thought maybe it'd be better to keep people in the quiet or keep them in the dark so that they don't freak out, because there's nothing we can do about it anyway. If we just tell them that there's aliens that are visiting us all the time, that's not going to be good. They're not going to pay attention to taxes and mortgage rates and the stock market. They're going to be
care
like, holy
about uranium and
there's
shit
aliens.
like that.
They're around us all the time. People are going to freak out. So I think like little drops of like this, the recent one they said, where they
what did the Pentagon just say? Literally like 2 fucking days ago.
They've recovered crafts that are not from this world. Not made on Earth.
Not made on Earth.
Yeah, not made on Earth.
Yeah.
They're basically saying we don't know what the fuck it is, but we didn't make it. That's bananas. And I think that's going to lead to more and more information coming out about it, where we're going to try to get a sense of understanding. Like, how long have they known this? You know, how much of like all that Roswell, New Mexico shit was true? Like, tell us what was going on.
And backtracking, you got to wonder if like, we've been hiding this the whole time, or this is the first time for real that we don't know.
This is what I like to think. I like to think that the people that are in charge at the Pentagon are patriots, and they realize it's probably better, especially when you're dealing with the United States. It's in this kind of turmoil that they're in right now. It's crazy, between racial turmoil and turmoil with the police and turmoil with people protesting in cities and blocking traffic. There's so much crazy turmoil. They'd be like, no one's even going to notice now. Just say it now. Just say, we got UFOs. Like, everything is so crazy. The news cycle of any crazy story like this is only a few days, and then people forget.
Well, or it's just people already know, and it's just normalization. And you think about movies as just normalizing you to the idea that I can't even, like the Canadian, don't quote me on this, but a Canadian, someone in office was like, there's like 7 species of aliens in the U.S. government.
It would be crazy if it was true.
That's,
Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith.
Do y'all
were
remember
right
that?
All along.
Yeah, check that out. Please fact check that for me.
Is he a loony person, though?
I have no idea.
See, people can get elected and still be crazy. That's a problem.
For certain.
That's a problem. Just because, like, when you hear about someone having, like, a really high-profile job and they say something crazy, it doesn't mean they're not crazy. Just because they're the prime minister of some fucking country. They could be out of their mind.
What do we got? Something close to that. How close?
Canada's former defense minister claims that aliens are real. Apparently, there's a humanoid-esque race of aliens called the Tall Whites living among us. It's It's Adam Curry.
What publication is
Adam
this?
Curry.
Is this Vice?
Adam
There's on
Curry's
Vice,
alien.
there's a few other places.
Well,
There's a few.
he
So
did-
it's like a real deal.
Definitely said it seems like.
Come on.
That's crazy shit.
Yeah, that is crazy shit. The thing is that guy nuts? Like, what else does he believe in? You know, how does he feel about ghosts? Right? When you think about like an alien sighting, like if you saw an alien and then you never saw one again for the rest of your life,
Right.
it would fuck with your memory, even if the alien was real. If a saucer
Right.
emerged in front of you and then took off, that's the same thing with a ghost. Like if you saw a fucking ghost, if you walked into your basement to go get a screw for something, and you turned and you saw an apparition of a woman who's like staring you down. Did you ever see that Guillermo del Toro movie about the lady who's a ghost who adopts kids?
No.
Dude, it's a dark movie. What is it called? Mother? What is it called? It's fucking creepy.
Is it?
It's creepy.
Do you like horror movies?
I love them.
Me too.
I love them.
I'm a dirty little bitch. I love horror movies.
I think it's called Mama.
Mama, yes, that's it.
Oh,
It's-
is that?
Bro,
is-
it's so
that's not
creepy.
with two Swedish kids, right?
I don't.
Does she
remember-
have two?
This is it. This
two
is it.
sons?
Did you see this?
No.
She has two kids.
No, I haven't seen that.
She's well, I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give the story away, but it's crazy. She finds these kids in the woods and raises them. She's a ghost, and it's a fucking terrifying movie.
She's a ghost. Wait,
yes, and so
is that a
people
spoiler?
adopt the kids. They find the kids. I can't tell you anymore. I can't tell you
Spoiler
anymore.
alert.
I can't tell you anymore. No, you know she's a ghost from the very beginning of the movie.
Okay, good. Yeah, this is
can't-
terrifying.
Dude, it's fucking horrifying. It's a terrifying movie.
Well, you get the best of both worlds, right? You get a creepy, like, mom style, and then you get
Yes.
creepy kids, which
You
are
get
like
both.
the
You get a
double
kid.
terrifying.
I
What's the movie
I
I'm
can't say
thinking
anymore
of?
without spoiler alert in it.
I think it might be called, so it's two kids. It might be Swedish or like Norwegian or something.
Is it the
And-
vampire movie?
No,
There's
but
there's a vampire movie, a foreign vampire movie. Is it Let the Right One In? I think it is, or is that the American version of it?
Let the Right One In is a scary movie.
That's a scary movie, right?
Yeah.
That's a vampire movie about vampire kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, the thing about a ghost is if you saw one and if they're just real every now and then, you saw one and it was right in front of you, you're in the woods,
Right.
you're going to walk your dog and you see some old man with no legs floating in front of you.
That's the one.
Good Night Mommy is what
Yeah.
Oh, Good Night, Mommy. What's this one about?
same. I don't know.
Same kind of deal? Oh, Jesus Christ.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Save that for later.
Did you see something good?
Yeah.
I missed it.
Some scary lady in the corner.
Check that motherfucker out. That's
Okay.
a good one.
I'm scared.
But you see him in the woods,
Yeah.
please.
Oh, yeah. If you saw some apparition in the woods and then you never saw it again for the rest of your life, it doesn't mean it wasn't real.
Right.
It just means it's really rare that happens. Like, that's a thing about a unique event. Like, imagine if you're an ant your whole fucking life.
Right.
All you've ever known is this anthill. Everybody's chilling, working every day, chopping up leaves, going out and getting popcorn or whatever shit it finds. And then one day, some person comes along like Post Malone, just stomps the fuck out of that anthill.
Sure.
Till that moment, all that thing has ever known was that anthill. Never even knew that it was possible for something to, because it's been alive for a couple of weeks. And during that couple of weeks, no one's ever stomped on the anthill. But then it happens. And then you realize that there's no pattern to these things. Anything can happen. Like if you're a person, aliens can land. They can land on the White House lawn tomorrow and take over the world. And there's nothing we can do about it. Like that could be our new normal. Okay, fuck masks. The new normal is there's alien spaceships that hover over every city and they tell you what to do. And you have to work for them now. Forever.
To the ant argument, we're smarter than ants.
Yes, we are. But we're, in comparison, probably dumber than aliens are. Like, we're dumber in comparison to aliens than ants are to people.
Well, that's why you like all
That's a
these
guess.
celestial sightings. Yeah, I mean, this is all spitballing here.
But it could be possible, right?
Celestial sightings documented throughout history.
Throughout history.
Hey, I just made a fire. This is dope, right? Fire's cool. But what the fuck is that? That has to be God. Like, man has always looked up for answers.
It's true.
And so that's why it's a scary thing.
The
Because
idea of-
do they want to hurt us, or did we come from them?
I don't think it's impossible. I don't think it's impossible that we're a product of genetic manipulation. I don't know if we are. I know we're definitely primates.
We're just playthings, maybe.
We just look so different than every other monkey. All the other monkeys are covered in hair. This is this weird semi-hairless monkey. Who knows how to use electronics. Who knows how to send video through the sky.
You know the Anunnaki?
Yes.
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 If Lou was here, I got a great friend, Lou. Shout out to Lou. He would talk your ear off about this whole deal.
About this to an actual archaeologist yesterday.
Or the Nephilim.
Bradley Garrett. Yeah, the Nephilim or the Anunnaki from planet Nibiru. All that Zacharias Hitchens stuff. You ever read those books?
No, sir.
The books are weird, man. You know what's weird? Like, there's stuff that he was saying in, like, I believe it was like the 1970s, where he was deciphering these texts. And one of the things that he said is, this is the craziest one of all. Humans were genetically engineered from lower primates, and they were used to harvest gold. And that the Anunnaki needed gold because gold is very plentiful here,
right,
and very hard to find, very rare on their planet.
Right.
And they engineered humans to mine. That's why people love gold so much.
Right.
If you think about like the usefulness of gold.
Right.
Gold isn't even remotely, unless you're making electronics, like gold's not the best metal. Like, why is it so valuable? Because it's pretty? Well, it's not even the prettiest shit. Like, rubies are prettier than gold. Emeralds are prettier than gold. Why is gold so goddamn expensive?
But where does diamonds fit in?
It's a good question. Probably just someone tricked a chick into thinking it was a good move.
I was reading about, like... Yeah, that's what... There's, like, one movie, she had a diamond, and then popped off.
Let me finish what I'm saying, because this is where it gets weird. They said that they needed it to hang in their atmosphere to protect them from the sun, because they were losing their atmosphere. Well, we're losing our atmosphere. And one of the things that scientists have suggested is hanging reflective particles above the Earth, like putting them in orbit, all like a reflective dust in orbit, so that it would mute out some of the effects of the sun. So what they suggested, what he was saying in 1978 is what they suggested in like 2018.
Right.
So when they're talking about how to fix some of the global warming issues, they were literally saying some of the stuff that was in this book that he was reading. He's deciphering these ancient Sumerian texts from 6,000 years ago.
No shit.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was about to ask,
his interpretations
where
are
did
right,
he
though.
get it from?
He is just a guy who's a linguist who studies these ancient languages and reinterprets them, but it's very highly in dispute. That's the problem. Like, you or I, we're not going to figure it out. We're not going to know who's right. It's too complicated.
Right.
But there's a website called sitchiniswrong.com, and if you go there, it refutes all of his. I don't know who's right or who's wrong, but it's interesting to see the argument. But again, whatever the fuck was going on back then, 6,000 years ago, whatever was going on, they were writing about some wacky shit.
Right.
You know, they were.
And is that the shrooms, or is that?
Is it contact?
Yeah.
It's not impossible. We could have easily been contacted by some other life form that's similar to us, but that's a million years advanced. We could have been contacted all throughout history.
Right.
Yeah. And up until 1860, whatever the fuck it was, all you would have is a drawing and a story. Imagine that.
How famous people, who the fuck knows? But now, if you look at the last 200 years, it has accelerated like a motherfucker. And there's so much, like, 200 years ago, people would look at the Bronco or anything like that and be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what is that?
It happened so quick.
It's happening so quick right now. I mean, that SpaceX thing, they've already figured out how to get something to fly into the sky and then bring it back and land it.
It's insane.
Yeah. We are in a weird fucking time. And if the aliens come right now, it's probably the best time to come. We're going to be the most relaxed about it. No one's been able to work for 6 months.
I feel like everybody's,
People are scared to shake hands.
What are you going to do?
Everyone's terrified.
Are you going to say hi? Or are you
to the aliens?
Are you going to grab your bow?
Oh, I'm going to say hi for sure. I'm not stupid. They could come here from not kicking anybody's
disintegration.
ass. Yeah, I'm not even interested in kicking someone's ass from another dimension. I just want to say hi. Tell me what's up.
Tell me what's actually
I
good.
want to have an alien on the podcast. Can you imagine?
I could call Tyler up.
3 foot tall, 40-pound dude with a giant bulbous head and like antenna-like fingers, and he's explaining how they traverse space and time instantaneously.
No.
Can you imagine? They're making sounds, and you interpret those sounds no matter what language you're in all over the world. You instantaneously interpret
Well, it'd
what
be
they're
through
saying.
your brain. You wouldn't be able to hear them.
Yeah, they would do it through a podcast. They'd be able to engineer the sounds they make.
They would
have to
do it
realize,
through.
what is this sound, and
Through
why do I
Shure
understand what he's saying?
SM78s.
They would hit you with some sound that's so complex you would understand exactly what they're saying,
Yeah.
even though you don't know the language. And everybody would be like, "What in the fuck is going on?" Oh my God, there's an alien on the JRE, and that's what it would be. Me talking to some alien.
They better give you some more goddamn money.
I think that's the least of our problems when the aliens come. That shit is going to be wiped
Well,
out.
that's when we need gold.
Yeah, we're going to be gold miners again, folks. We're going to look for some sturdy person with a wide back. That's what's going to be valuable. Thank you. But I mean, good enough to mine gold? I don't know. You imagine if that's life in the future? They come down and go, you got 2 choices. One, we eat you. 2, you mine gold for us.
Are they eating
Stay
humans?
alive. Why not? Why wouldn't they eat us? They'd be like, listen, you guys are just protein. You're assholes.
They probably eat clouds.
Yeah.
Or like energy. They probably just eat energy.
Yeah, maybe they just exist in some sort of like a
Dude, they're probably not
redundant
even
system.
fucking material.
Probably.
They're probably just fucking ethereal.
Well, maybe they figured out a way to make life. So maybe they figured out a way how to make life where you can transfer your consciousness in some eternal mechanical thing.
Yeah, the community thing I think is like a key thing.
Yes.
Like I recently did a debunk of a UFO that the Chilean Navy supposedly saw.
What was that? I'm not aware of that one.
It was like this this thing. There was a Chilean Navy helicopter had this infrared camera, and they saw this 2 black dots off in the distance that looked like a weird thing, like a figure 8 type thing flying away, and then it started like spraying out this stuff, and they couldn't figure what it was, and they chased after it, but it was too fast and it got away from them. And the Chilean government has an official UFO investigation team, and they set them on it, and they spent 2 years figuring out what it was, and they couldn't figure out what it was, and so they said it's a confirmed unidentified object. And then they published their findings, and then I and some other people on Metabunk looked at it, and we figured out it was actually just a plane flying away from the helicopter, leaving some contrails behind, and we actually figured out exactly which plane it was. And so this got a bit of play online, and there was on like Huffington Post and things like that. And some UFO enthusiasts started talking to me, and I joined their groups, and I joined a few other groups, and then I found myself in this kind of weird corner of the internet where everybody believes in UFOs unquestioningly, and they're always putting up these photographs of things, and people are like, "Oh, great capture, dude," and it's just something like a street light or something. But they think they have this confirmation bias, this group confirmation bias, where they can't disagree with someone, and they know they're in a safe space, so they can put out whatever theory that they like, and they know that people will be like, they're just very supportive of them.
Yeah.
Like one that happened a couple of days ago, some woman put up a picture of a strange light that she said was in the sky. And so I downloaded the picture and I boosted the brightness, and I saw it was actually a reflection of something in a security light on a porch. And you could see it was like there was trees behind it, and it was a security light, and there's this reflection. So I posted that, and then I started getting called like a shill for pointing this out.
Yeah.
There's a couple of people who like said, "Oh yeah, it's just this light," but other people were like, "What the heck? Why don't you believe me? Why are you like invalidating like my claims?"
Right.
And so they want to have these kind of little walled gardens where everybody believes the same thing.
That's a good way to put it. the walled gardens. It really is a good way to put it, because that is what those communities seemed like, and that's one of the things that I found when I did that television show. I still harbored a few conspiracy theories before I did that show, but doing that show for several months and constantly interviewing people who believed in outlandish things, I found the same thing over and over and over again. Illogical people with very little evidence believing things in almost a religious way. And I found it with Bigfoot, and I found it with UFOs, and I found it with chemtrails, and I found it with, it was just one after the other in varying stages of ridiculousness. I feel like contrails and chemtrails were the most nutty people. The UFO people seem to be the most reasonable, because it's the most reasonable theory out of all of them. The idea that we have spaceships, why doesn't someone else have spaceships? There's hundreds of billions of galaxies in the known universe, hundreds of billions of planets in each galaxy. The odds of there being some sort of a life form out there is pretty high. But there's nothing. That's the craziest thing. Like, the more I talked to these people, the more I went over all their evidence, air quotes evidence, the more I ask them why they believe things. There is nothing. There's not a goddamn thing that you can put on a scale. There's not a thing that you can weigh. There's not a thing that you can measure. There's not a thing that you can look at a photo and go, wow, that's compelling. There's not one. It's just an idea. And that idea is that there's something in the sky that flies around that we, either might catch if you're there, the right place, the right time, or not, and that they're from another planet. But
yeah, if you look at what they put forward as the best evidence, it's often like
it's nothing.
Cases from the 60s where there's an eyewitness who said something, like there was some guy on a road who says he blacked out and his car got messed up.
It's always that.
From the 60s.
Well, that's the other thing, that I know too much about psychedelic drugs, and I know about endogenous psychedelic drugs, the brain producing this chemical called dimethyltryptamine that happens when you're sleeping. Now, they've proven that this stuff is produced in the liver and in the lungs, and they believe it's now, they've got evidence that it's produced in the pineal gland. It's a very potent psychedelic drug that your brain produces, and your brain produces it during REM sleep. So these people, they all take naps. And during these naps, they have these crazy fucking dreams. And it's entirely possible that during these dreams, what happened is they got some endogenous DMT dump. Whether they were under stress or whether they just had an erratic dump of this human neurochemical that entered into their bloodstream, whatever it is that caused it. All these fucking UFO abductions, all of them, like almost exactly happen at night. And they happen while these people are sleeping. Like, wouldn't you just assume that you were dreaming? Like, why wouldn't you assume you were dreaming?
Yeah, I have these. I used to have these kind of night terror hallucination things, which are kind of like that.
Yeah.
And it was always the same type of thing. It was like a giant spider coming down from the ceiling towards me.
And you couldn't move?
I was like, frozen for a second, and then I would jump out of bed and turn on the light and look for the spider. And it happened all the time. I knew because there was no spider that it wasn't real, but I could see if someone was having a different type of hallucination that seemed a bit more real, and then it came in between sleep cycles for them. Then totally, you can see, because it seemed completely real.
Yeah,
I used to have them all the time, and it was always like it was horrible. It was this like giant, really realistic spider, and it wasn't like I was dreaming somewhere else. I was in the room, and I could see it like I was seeing something crawling across the table right here. It was this hallucination. I don't really get them anymore. I don't know what it was. My brain's fixed itself or whatever. But
it's probably a lot has to do with being young and confused, and hormones and nerves, and then also like your brain starts filling in the blanks. If you don't have a very good understanding of the universe, and your brain, your imagination runs wild. It was very confusing to me doing that television show, and it really changed me a lot. And it changed me to the point that people started accusing me of being co-opted by the government. That the government threatened my family and told me to stop talking about conspiracies. And then the idea that I wouldn't say that if that was the case. Like, you don't think I would fucking tell everybody if someone threatened my family because I was talking about UFOs? I'd be telling everybody. I'd be like, hey, man. Yeah. I would tell all my friends. I'd be like, dude, they fucking threatened me because I was talking about UFOs. This shit is real. Hangar 18, Area 51.
I think there was a paper a while ago published on like how many people it would take to cover up certain conspiracy theories, and the probability of none of those people ever talking.
Yeah.
And it's just ridiculous. Like, you can't have tens of millions of people in on a conspiracy about it.
What do you think happened at Roswell? Roswell, New Mexico, that's the big one. July 1947, I think a UFO crashed.
Yeah, I think it's what they said it was. It was that those balloons that they were using to detect Russian nuclear bombs in the atmosphere, and it was a secret program, so they weren't allowed to tell anybody about it. So they came in, they picked up the remains of the balloon, and then the story just took off.
That's a funny one, though. Boy, that's made a whole town famous for UFOs. If you go there now, they have like alien-themed gift shops.
They're milking it. And it's like you said earlier, like people make money out of something, and then they get stuck into that. So because they're making money out of it, they're motivated to promote whatever it is, if it's Bigfoot or if it's aliens.
Have you ever seen anything in all of your years of trying to debunk these things that made you question whether or not this was a legitimate phenomena?
What, the chemtrail thing?
Anything. UFO, chemtrail,
well, the thing is, like with UFOs, there's always things that you can't explain. There are things that are unidentified, but there's usually plausible explanations for them.
Right.
I like to, whenever I'm given something like a mysterious thing, I like to list all the explanations that I can think of. And maybe none of them are a perfect fits that you can guarantee this is what the explanation is. But like it being like a ghost or an alien spacecraft as an explanation is usually pretty close to the bottom. Like you start out saying, oh, it's a balloon, or it's a bird, or it's a drone, or it's CGI, or it's it's something somebody faked afterwards,
right?
Or it's an alien spacecraft. Or in between that, like, oh, it's something else that we don't know what it is.
Is there any evidence, like in terms of UFOs, that's interesting?
I haven't, to be honest, I haven't really looked into the whole sphere of UFOlogy. I know a lot of people have, but just looking at the quality of the best cases they put forward, like I mentioned earlier, like, some guy in 1964, like, got his car beat up on a road.
Right.
These are like the top 10 best cases, and this was like number 2 or something.
What about Bob Lazar? You ever looking at that guy?
I don't know. Which was he? Like
Bob Lazar is the guy who supposedly worked at Area 51 and became a whistleblower.
No, I haven't. But a lot of it's something you see in the 9/11 community and in the chemtrail community is people kind of becoming celebrities.
Yeah.
And then they kind of start going on road shows, and they go to conventions and they speak, and then they write books, and then they start doing things, and they get sucked into their beliefs.